Hello, and welcome to another episode from Season 6 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a passion for scary movies. Each week we pick a different horror movie and dissect it to figure out what it was trying to accomplish, how well it did, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season we're changing things up. We're devoting a whole season to reviewing Esquire's list of the 50 scariest movies of all time. In each episode, we'll break down a different movie, talk about how scary it really was, and then update our rankings to prove how much smarter we are than the other people on the internet. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. All right, we are continuing on with Season 6, and we're working through our list from Esquire of the 50 scariest movies of all time. And this week we did number 49 on their list, which was called Under the Skin. And I did not realize that this was an A24 picture.
I do not know what an A24 picture is.
So several weeks ago, I think it was when we were talking about Us, we talked about Blumhouse.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And how they're like a production company,
Yeah.
or production. A24 does production and distribution. And so it's kind of a similar type thing. And A24... anytime you see that at the beginning of a movie, you kind of know you're in for something different. And with Blumhouse, I generally feel like I'm going to like it. With A24, I know it's going to be different, but I don't know if I'm going to like it. But it's definitely going to be something unlike the last few movies I've watched.
Oh, right. So A24 did like The Witch, Midsommar.
Yeah, Hereditary, and
Midnight.
a few other. But they also get into a lot of more like independent type movies, so
Right.
it's not all like horror sci-fi.
Gotcha.
20th Century Women is one that they did a few years ago that got completely ignored in all of the Oscar nominations and stuff, but this should have totally won.
Really?
Yeah. It was sort of a similar feel and similar themes to Lady Bird, but in my opinion, significantly better.
Dang.
But yeah, so I feel like knowing that it's an A24 movie makes a lot of things about it make a little more sense. Because this was a weird movie.
Yeah, this was incredibly strange. I mean, it also wasn't like... never mind. I was going to say it wasn't horror, but I guess it kind of could have been.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it did not belong on this list at all. And
Yeah.
I think there are other movies that sort of operate in the same vein that would have been a better fit. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce it, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
After working on conceptualizing this film for over a decade, director Jonathan Glazer released his movie Under the Skin in 2013. The plot follows Scarlett Johansson as a youngish woman with a mysterious past in Scotland who stalks isolated men and leads them to a long and strange death. The movie was based on a novel of the same name by author Michael Faber and tells a very pared-down version of the story, with a focus on how the main character perceives the world. Made on a budget of about £8 million, it only brought in a little over £5 million at the box office. It can currently be streamed on Netflix.
That was a benefit of this.
Yes. I'm glad I didn't pay for it.
Pretty pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, if you like had to order it. Like, what was that one? Session 9? It's not available anywhere, so I actually ordered the DVD.
Yeah, we both had to buy it.
Yeah. But at least that one I liked. But yeah, I would not want to own a physical copy of this movie.
So do you know what $8 million, £8 million translates to in US dollars?
Like maybe 10 or 12 million?
Close. $9,904,848.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you do that in your head?
Yeah. No.
Impressed.
Yes, absolutely.
Very impressed.
In my head, I decided to go to Google and then search it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm interested in those things. So, I have a couple facts for this.
Wait, you're interested in conversion rates between currencies in different countries?
Yeah, that and like height and weight. Like when they say like, they say that they weigh like 4 stone.
Oh yeah.
You're like, you're stupid. Like what? You're dumb. And
That's how you convert it in your head. It's like 4 stone
4
equals
stones
low
equals
IQ.
You're an idiot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
so I have a couple facts about this.
Okay.
So in the movie, Scarlett Johansson is who I think that throughout this, because I don't know if there's a name for her, we're just going to call her Scarlett Johansson. So I'm going to do that throughout this podcast.
Okay.
It's easier than trying to come up with another name.
Well, there's basically only 2 characters that you really needed to care about. There was Scarlett Johansson, and then there was the fella on the motorcycle.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's what they are in my head and in my notes. So we'll call them Scarlett Johansson and the fellow on the motorcycle.
Okay, that sounds great. So Scarlett actually, when she was luring guys to the van, like in the early part of the movie, a lot of those were actually done with like hidden cameras, and where she was like asking questions and stuff like that. Not actually, I assume, not actually getting them in the van. And I'm saying that because the people who she got in the van, and went on to the apartment, those were actual actors.
Okay.
The other ones, I didn't see that they were actors. So
she was just driving around, like asking people for directions and stuff, and they Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And used like the hidden camera, and then after it was done, like they came out and signed off to get there. And it kind of made me wonder how much that was done throughout the movie, because there's the scene where she trips and falls, and everyone's kind of helping her.
Yeah.
I noticed that a guy in an orange jacket, it looked like his face was a little blurry, and I was like, I wonder if that was like the same thing, like in, I don't know for sure. I was just
maybe they like didn't get him to sign the waiver or something.
Right. Yeah. So a championship motorcycle road racer, Jeremy McWilliams, otherwise known as Fella on a Motorcycle, was cast as the motorcyclist to handle the treacherous driving conditions of Scotland. I was thinking about this when, like, I was seeing them ride, and it was like super rainy, and like they were leaned super far, and like, I was like, gosh, that's so intense. Let's see. It took 13 minutes before an actual proper line of dialogue happened in this movie. And with someone like me, who has a weird attention span, that's not good. I really tried focusing. Okay, and then last one. I thought this one was kind of interesting. That one of the locations where the film was shot was the Robert Street area of Port Glasgow. So this is technically where the second victim was lured. Filming had to be delayed for a number of days as there was a real-life murder in the next street prior to filming. Police had cordoned the area off. Anyway, it happens.
Yeah.
So those are my little facts about this movie.
So I appreciate you doing the digging, but I do have one thing I object to in your facts.
Oh, okay.
And you said it was like 12 to 13 minutes before the first proper line of dialogue. I would argue there was no proper dialogue in this entire movie.
Yeah.
Irish people don't speak English, dude. Like
Scottish.
But what I'm saying is, like, what comes out of their mouth is not English.
Right.
You and I, with the exception of a few words that we'll never say right because we grew up in Oklahoma, speak English.
Right.
But, like, I needed subtitles for this movie.
It was bad.
And furthermore, the only option for subtitles on the movie was English, which means other people felt the same way.
Yeah, there's one scene where she's on a bus and the bus driver was talking to her, and I was seriously like, I didn't do subtitles, but I was seriously like, I have no idea what you're saying, and I feel like if I was on the bus with that bus driver and he started heckling me, my only defense I could do is just start fighting every Scottish person on that bus.
Naturally. You just gotta start swinging.
You gotta stand up for America, man.
Yeah. Also, I do apologize for saying Irish instead of Scottish. I know they're different things.
That's all right. I'm not offended. I don't give a shit about either one of them.
I ruined the joke. Damn it. But yeah. No, but it was rough. But I did. It was interesting, though, because it felt disorienting. Like, I think that this movie, the one thing that it kind of did well is, as far as like how it was trying to be scary, was sort of the ambiance or the mood of it. And they had a lot of noise and schizophrenic violins that were mixed super loud to like make it kind of intense and creepy. And then also like most of the dialogue was hard to understand, and it was like they were speaking very methodically, almost in like another language that you could almost understand. Like it reminded me of in The Witch, where they were using that like super old like style of English,
right?
And so it just seemed off. And then because of the music and sort of the mood that it was creating and sort of how dark and drab it was, it just feels kind of uncomfortable. And so I felt like the bad talking kind of helped it in that regard.
Yeah, I think for me it seemed like each line that was said, there was like no confidence behind it. So like It was just like it was kind of being half-assed. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like it was being forced instead of like a natural conversation.
Yeah.
Which I guess thinking from like Scarlett's character, it probably was a little forced.
Mm-hmm.
But now I didn't necessarily have issue with the music of it though. I feel like if you're gonna have a movie this vague, you might as well have music like that.
No,
you know what I mean? So it's like,
I thought the music was very fitting. Like I felt like it did a really good job of supporting what they were trying to do, and I liked that it was kind of mixed loud and in your face.
Right. It was super loud. Yeah.
But I guess kind of to what you were saying about it almost seemed like they didn't have confidence in their lines or something, or like they weren't really projecting them.
Right.
I feel like this movie was made very much in the style of sort of an independent drama, where you have everybody that's just sort of like disconnected and unemotional, and like that's a style. And we've talked about that before with some of the other movies that we've watched, where they sort of have that, and it's kind of a weird mix between that and horror. But with this one especially, so I did some more reading about it, just because I was really confused. I was like, how did it make it on this list, first of all, as the scariest movie? Which, granted, it's at number 49, so you're probably kind of stretching at that point. But it was based on the book, and originally the movie was very elaborate and included a lot, like the screenplay included a lot more of the actual story and a lot of special effects and it was going to be very like big and over the top. And then they pared it back a lot to make it more sort of impressionistic and to demonstrate like the view of the main character. And so what I feel like they ended up doing was creating something that would be very complementary to the book. Like if you read the book and liked it and then you went and watched the movie, it's like, oh, here's this other perspective of the events that were in the book that I liked and that are familiar. But if you haven't read the book, it just feels like a bunch of random shots with no connective tissue. Mm-hmm. It doesn't explain anything. And I thought maybe I was just dumb, like maybe I missed some obvious stuff. But then I went and read the Wikipedia page about the plot summary, and it's just like 5 paragraphs, and it's like, this happened, then this other thing happened. Like there's no connection, right. There's no foreshadowing, there's no callbacks. It's all just like these random scenes. And so I don't know. It was deliberate, you know?
Yeah, I thought the same thing, because I definitely did the same. Read about it, and like the last line of it was, elsewhere, the motorcyclist stands on a mountaintop, either aware of the woman's death or completely oblivious. And it's like, well, which is it, man?
That fellow on the motorcycle doesn't know what to think.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Doesn't know. Anyway.
But yeah, so the whole style of it was just like, here's a scene, here's another scene, here's a scene that has her again, here's the scene without her. Like there was no connection to any of it, and you kind of just had to fill in the gaps. And it just made me giggle, because I was thinking, what if we produced our podcast that way?
Mm-hmm.
And so like we would be having this conversation, and then it would just be like, scene, my dog is asleep in his bed. A truck drives by outside.
Yep.
an insect rattles against the window. So what'd you think of the way they use color in this movie?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a very prime example right there.
I don't know, man. Like, for me, it wasn't effective at all from a horror perspective. Like, there was certainly some discomfort. And one scene especially was when they're on the beach and she finds the guy who's visiting from the Czech Republic, and he's like camping there. And then there's the couple with the baby, and like I guess the wife gets pulled out into the undertow, and the guy goes to try and save her, and then he's in trouble too. And then the Czech guy goes and is only able to get the husband back, but then the husband swims back out and they get washed away. And then Scarlett Johansson just comes and smashes the guy's head, but the baby is still there. And then she like takes the guy and just leaves the baby alone on the beach. And then the fellow on the motorcycle shows up and picks up the guy's belongings, but he just leaves the baby crying on the beach. And I hated that so much. Like, that made me so uncomfortable. Everything about that sequence was so uncomfortable. And I don't like that they left the kid, but I don't like even more that there was no explanation for like the motivations behind it. It was just a really weird experience all around.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think that that's what that seems. Not the lack of explanation, but like to make viewers uncomfortable, that's what that whole scene had to be about.
Yeah.
I mean, because it starts off with a woman trying to get a dog that's, out there. Dog drowns. The man's trying to get out there. It's just maybe it's like to kind of show that, she's on a mission at that point to get people. What we don't know, but
yeah,
like she's just focused on that, whereas like she has no attachment to like the human, emotion or anything like that at that point. And also, this movie's like super long too.
Yeah.
And so like, it's kind of split up in halves.
Yeah.
Well, it's not kind of. It's split up in halves. Where like, before she starts the human feeling like a human, and then after, which I guess I could kind of get into. Wait, I want to say something else before I do this. I went to another site while we were talking earlier, and listen, I got another amount for the difference between 8 million pounds. So I don't know, but it seems like it's over, but I'm stressing out. Anyway, so this is my breakdown of the movie.
How many stone did it cost?
It was 8 stone. Movie starts off with a motorcyclist. Well, movie starts off with that like visual that turns into a human eye. Whatever. Motorcyclist gets another lady that's like kind of down in the little hill, picks her up, takes her in. Scarlett Johansson, who's naked, undresses the other lady, puts the clothes on, and leaves. I assume that the reason why they didn't put that lady in the gunk is because she was so the lady she starts crying, like she has a tear come down. Mm-hmm. I assume that was another alien that previously had emotion, or they got human feeling.
Okay.
Much like what happens to Scarlett Johansson. So they cut her off. Well, I don't know what happens to her after. Be nice to know. Scarlett goes out. She's now the hunter. So every time she's hunting, that crazy wicked music playing, right?
Yeah.
The same stuff, just rocking out. She's hunting. She trips. So she's hunting. She's pulling men into to this black gunk. Mm-hmm. They walk in with their boners. That's neither here nor there. It's just saying it's kind of weird. They go in. Obviously, whatever they're in is like killing them from the inside out, right? Because one of the guys gets sucked away. Anyway, Scarlett Jo's walking down the street. She trips. She falls. She realizes that humans aren't really that bad.
Because people try to help her? They
try to help her. That's when she comes across the
disfigured guy.
Disfigured. Yeah. I was trying to put the word disfigured and deformed together. That's when she comes across him. She does the deed with him, takes him upstairs, puts him in the water thing. She's going downstairs. She looks at herself in the mirror for the first time and starts feeling human emotion. She looks over. She sees a fly that's trapped against the door. and she goes up. It doesn't say this. Like, she does not do this. This is why this movie pisses me off. But she goes up and she lets him out because she feels guilty for trapping him, much like the fly was, because she's starting to get that emotion. So from that point on, she's on the run now. Yep. She's trying to get away from the motorcyclist who happens to know her whole move. I don't know. Anyway.
A lot of parts of this movie get real hard if you try to explain them.
Right. And so now she's living in fear. She's trying to experience the things that actual humans do. That's why she goes and eats the cake, which she doesn't like, which is fine. She goes and she meets that nice guy at the bus station. She goes with him. She ends up trying to have sex. She can't have sex, I assume, because it's blocked off. I don't know that for sure. So she's like examining herself for the first time, realizing what's going on, why they're attracted to her. She takes off. A lumberjack tries to rape her. She takes off running. He grabs her skin, rips it. It's a black alien. He lights her on fire. So the meaning of that would be beauty is only skin deep.
Okay, but before the beauty is only skin deep, replay those last 4 sentences and just say that in any setting and try not to sound like an absolutely psychotic person.
Well, so no.
It's such a weird series of events.
Yeah,
and
no, but it's like that's what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it, but it's also like, this is not a scary film.
Right.
This is someone's opinion that beauty's only skin deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is with human nature. And it's like, well, that's not okay. Well, that's the case with some, sure, but that's not everyone, at all.
I think you're beautiful on the inside.
I'm only friends with you because you're beautiful on the inside.
Oh,
uglier than a dog on the outside.
Scene. Bryce stands alone on a bridge above a river at midnight on July 4th. It's the end of his birthday, but the beginning of America's birthday. He takes off his party hat and tosses it, and it spins down into the black waters below. Man, there was a lot of penis in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think what gets me, though, with this movie is it's just frustrating how long it took to get to that point. You knew where it was going throughout the movie. Like, I mean, you had to have. The movie's called Under the Skin. I mean, it's just like, and once you realize it's fake, it's like, oh, okay. But, yeah, I don't know. I agree with what your statement was, where I feel like if you read the book, you probably like this a whole lot more.
Yeah.
I don't see the horror in this movie. And it's also because it's like, okay, so what? Some people are going to find beauty's only skin deep. Or some people's only going to go for what's on the outside. But so what? Find someone who's not. Like, don't focus on the people that are going in the wrong direction. Focus on the people going in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my opinion.
Yeah. One thing that really gets me about this one is so I made the mistake of reading the reception section on the Wikipedia page.
Oh, I didn't do that. There's no way I could do that.
Yeah. So it reminds me of like a very Emperor's New Clothes type thing. Because, like that's the story of basically groupthink. It's like everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to think that this thing's really good, so I'm going to talk about how good it is.
Right.
But then somebody who isn't wrapped up in that comes along and is just like, what are you guys talking about? This is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with this one, so hold on 2 seconds. Let me pull this up. All right, I'm just going to read this first paragraph. It says, writing for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Dwayne Dudek speculated that Johansson's character assumes a human identity to collect information about humans as an alien intelligence might, introducing an identity crisis, causing her to spin out of control like a broken machine. He wrote that the fellow on the motorcycle can be interpreted as a companion, enabler, or pursuer, and that the dark, dark world where the woman submerges her victims may be a nest, a web, another planet or dimension, or a visual representation of how sex feels to her or them. In The Guardian, Leo Robson wrote that Under the Skin deals with race and immigration. He interpreted Johansson's character as a kind of immigrant, and that the film's title seems like part of an anti-racial slogan, a reminder that despite our racial or ethnic differences, we share some basic components. A bunch of other people said a bunch of other nonsensical things about this movie that were completely their own opinions poured on to the lack of storyline. Like, what? Oh my god. I mean, the only... Because I was trying to figure out, as I was watching it, like, what maybe is the bigger thing that it's going for. Because this movie felt like it was trying to make a point. And I thought that maybe it was something to do with, like, cycles of abuse. So if you think about it in the beginning of, like, the fellow on the motorcycle, like, taking away her humanity, like, she emerges from her experience with him sort of, like, dead inside, and then is luring away other men and, like, taking away what's inside of them too. And then that guy is sort of always there, like, his shadow is on all of it too, and so it's just like this hurt people type thing, and maybe that's going somewhere, and then it doesn't, because then the ending doesn't go anywhere with that. So, like, there was no, I don't think, like, centralized theme or anything. I really do think it was just an adaptation of the book and him trying to create, like, a very artistic rendering of what the experience of this character would have been. Which is fine, except that, like, 99.9% of the world hasn't read that book. And so, like, why would you expect us to enjoy the movie?
Yeah.
Scene, Mexico City, 1986.
Mm-hmm.
In a multifamily house, an elderly woman breathes her last breath on the third floor in a drab bed, while a child is born in the basement.
Insane.
So, I was not into this movie, if you hadn't picked up on that. And I really think...
me either.
I think that...
Sure, I was trying to make sense of this movie.
Yeah.
But...
I think that... I wish they had replaced it with Raw.
I could see that. Yeah, I would definitely appreciate this. I would appreciate Raw on the list more than that. I think that there's a ton of movies they should have replaced it with.
Yeah. But I mean, just as far as a very... I guess you would say, like, sort of art film horror movie. I feel like Raw does a lot of the same stuff, but it just was a much better story and pulled off better all around.
I mean, I kind of feel like the reason why it's on the list is to try to look like you're intelligent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because of all of its good themes.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, you don't have to put it on the list just because, I didn't necessarily see why this is very much, why it's a horror film. Like, I feel like that movie about the first, like, female serial killer was probably in the same realm of, like, same idea.
Have you heard much about Eileen?
That's who it was about, yeah.
Yeah. Go watch a documentary on her.
Yeah.
Because that's what this movie made me want to do, and it would be a better use of your time.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly, that was exactly my point. Like, where I feel like that movie, what was it called? Monster something? I don't know. Anyway, I feel like it's more of a, kind of horror of what happened. Same kind of concept, except for she was abused. But anyway,
so,
it's called Monster, yeah. And she's playing Eileen Wuornos. Wuornos. She
was the lady in Florida that would, like, pick up truckers and then just kill them.
Yeah. Shooting them at point blank range. But it was also, like, only like from 1989 to, like, 1990 or something like that. Maybe 91. Like, it wasn't very long killing spree. It was only 6 people, man.
Only.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to this movie, it's like, okay, we get that you're trying to do something there, but even though I don't necessarily see it as a horror film,
agreed,
it's not necessarily in the realm of movies that I would like to watch on the otherwise too, so that might be why I'm not interested. Just trying to put that nicely. As other words, it's like you tried a little too hard. You know, you can make a movie on a book that people haven't read, and it can turn out good.
Yeah.
I think you relied too much on the book.
Yeah.
To do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the movie makes sense if you've read the book. It's just kind of a mess if you haven't.
Yeah.
But I think the real question here is, did you rank it above or below Let the Right One In?
Oh, God. I knew this was coming. This is a battle I have, because you know how I feel about Let the Right One In.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tie for dead last. Who's doing the homework on this? No, who's grading it? Oh, we don't care. That's a tie for last place. Now my list only goes to 49 because two of them are. And I have a feeling that there's going to be a couple more at 49 too.
Yeah. So like looking through the list of the ones that we're watching over the next couple weeks, it's going to be a couple before I'm really excited. But I am really excited for M. It's from.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. Yeah.
It's from the 30s.
Yeah.
And like serial killer investigation, race against time stuff. That's supposed to be one of the sort of first in that style that sort of inspired a bunch of others. So that one's still, I guess, 2 movies away, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it says on the list, it specifically says you can thank M for the movie 7.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Definitely influence there. So, yeah. I'm definitely excited. There's a couple other on the list that I'm excited about, like Cabin Fever. I know it's not necessarily scary, but it's like I just watched that a lot when I was younger. So, yeah.
Well, cool. Got something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Scene. A fellow on the motorcycle thinks the podcast is over. Or doesn't. And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening. What would be like your random cutaway scene for the ending? You gotta say scene before it starts.
Scene. Okay. Let's see. Scene. I just ate a Burger King burger. Next scene. My stomach hurts really, really bad. Ending scene. I'm dying from poison. End.
You gotta say fiend.
Fiend.